We're not in the minds of the people that were there.
Yeah.
They're difficult. I can give you stories that make the church look really, really good, make us look like we were out there, we were advocates, great stories. But I can also give you stories where we did not live up to our Christian faith. We did not live up to our standards. Well, there's enough out there where we look really bad. And so the question is which you're going to believe? And my answer is both. Both stories are
Yeah.
true, because people are complicated.
We are so excited to announce the full lineup for our Come Back to Christ event happening September 5th and 6th in Provo, Utah at the Utah Valley Convention Center. On Friday, it will be from 6 to 9:30, and we will have Jillian Deaton, Marcy Taylor, and our keynote speaker, Jared Halverson, which I am so excited about. It's going to be amazing. And then Friday night, we'll have our Come Back to Christ drone show event, and it is going to be so epic. We had one at our last event. It is amazing. You don't want to miss it. Nothing says awesome like seeing the Savior's outline in the sky, followed by the words come back. So we're so excited about that. And then Saturday from 9 to 2, we will have Nia, Peter, their former podcast guests. If you know, you know. They were so good. We have a live podcast with Carla Collins, and then our keynote on Saturday is Terrell Givens. Terrell wrote the book Crucible of Doubt, which has changed my life. I've talked about it many times on the podcast. It is so amazing. We're so excited. There will be a lot of former podcast guests there. You will be able to mingle with them. It's going to be an awesome way to celebrate our Savior, Jesus Christ, together. So can't wait to see you there. Tickets are available on our website at comebackpodcast.org. If you love someone battling addiction and you've tried everything, rescuing, tough love, boundaries, prayer, and still feels like nothing's working, please listen to this. Jason Coombs has lived both sides of the story. He's the one who spiraled through addiction and the one whose family fought for years to bring him back. He was actually on the podcast. Check out his episode. It was so good. What they discovered didn't just lead to Jason's long-term sobriety. It brought him back to Jesus Christ and fully back into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Today, Jason's a best-selling author and leading addiction recovery expert. And in his free web class, The Secret to Sobriety, How to Break Your Son's Addiction Without Paying $30,000 for Rehab, he shares the 3 steps to living unhooked. Step 1, from confusion to clarity. Step 2, from control to real influence. And step 3, from fear to peace, purpose, and freedom. Jason and his family suffered to learn these principles, so you don't have to. And this is a shortcut they never had. Click the link in the show notes to register now at www.liveunhook.com. It's free and the replay is available for a limited time. This could be the moment that changes everything. This episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth. Did you know that cooler sleeping conditions may boost serotonin levels, contributing to improved mood and reduce symptoms of depression? I am definitely a person that likes to sleep with it cooler. I live in southern Utah. It gets to be like 115 degrees here. And so sleeping cool at night is definitely a priority for me. So when I received a set of Cozy Earth sheets, it was a game changer for me. I have loved them so much. They keep me cool at night. They're super soft. I have never experienced such a great night's sleep as I have with these silky, soft sheets. They are amazing. And it's a risk-free purchase. You have a 100-night sleep trial, so you can try them during the hottest nights of the year. If you're not in love, you can return them hassle-free, but trust me, you're going to want to keep them. They're amazing. Also, you can go to cozyearth.com and use code COMEBACK for 40% off. That is such a good deal. I'm about to go load up my cart right now. They are the best-selling temperature-regulating sheets, and there's a lot more. You'll feel the difference the very first night. Sleep cooler, lounge lighter, and stay cozy. Well, Scott, I'm excited to have you on the podcast. Jasmine, she recommended you, and I love Jasmine so much. So anybody that she recommends, I am in full support of having on the podcast. So it's so nice to have you on.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation. And I love Jasmine as well.
Yeah, she's awesome. So tell us a little bit about what you do, kind of your association with FAIR. For those that don't know what FAIR is, tell us a little bit about that. So yeah.
Okay. So I am currently the president of FAIR, and FAIR is an organization you can find at fairlatterdaysaints.org. We used to go by the term Fair Mormon, but then somebody suggested that maybe that's not what we should use. Now you have to do the longer name and things. So it makes it a little more difficult. Anyway, so what FAIR is as an organization is it's a group of volunteers that started way back in 1997. This is before YouTube, before Google, really old. So that's why I have wrinkles. But it started a long time ago, where we would, when people would express concerns about things they read in books or saw on the internet or whatever it was, we would investigate it. We would read the footnotes, as they say, and say, what does it really say? And is there anybody who says anything different? And then there's a much longer story that goes with this, but the bottom line is we made a website and we started putting these up. Our website is now over 12,000 pages long.
Wow.
Of responses to criticisms and answers, and many times to questions of what people have done. I joke about it. If you want to find any anti-Mormon argument on the internet, you can find it on our website. And make some people say, like, are you really in favor of the church? Yeah, we really are. We're trying to support the church. And the other thing I like to say, and I've had several critics reaffirm this, is, first of all, we are unapologetic that we're here to support the church and to support members and their testimonies. That's what we do. However, we want to make sure that the information we provide is information that anyone who looks at the same information, the same things, would say, like, yeah, they got the facts right. They got the information right. I may not like their conclusion. I don't like where they went with it, but the facts that they have there, that is what it is. It's good. That's a lot harder than it sounds sometimes, because sometimes facts are, where did it come from? Did it come from that time or 50 years later or whatever? We try to put all that into context for people.
What made you want to start getting into this? Like, tell me a little bit about your story and why you wanted to start doing this.
Sure. So first of all, I'm not from Utah. I didn't grow up on the Wasatch Front. I grew up in an area where there was a ward, and it wasn't a very big one. So my friends were not Latter-day Saints. I take that back. I had one Latter-day Saint friend. And some of them were very religious. Some of them were not religious at all. And we'd have discussions that were kind of interesting. And I still remember the time when I had one of my friends handed me a book called Doctrines of the Devil, Mormonism. And I went, oh, and he said, tell me about this. And so I said, well, let me go home and read it. And I opened it up, and it had a picture of Joseph Smith in the front, and it was this man with a full beard. And I went, that's not right. Should have got that one wrong. And so then I ended up analyzing it and looking at it, and took it back to my friend and said, like, yeah, there's some interesting stuff in here, but here's some stuff that didn't get right. Just to go with the story, he's currently serving in a bishopric now in Boise, Idaho.
Wow.
He later joined the church. Yeah. So he was not even Christian at the time.
My gosh.
So he made quite a change in his life. But I showed my mother what I had done, and she said, my mother was interesting because she was very much into academics. She really liked to study and read. And my father especially just loved reading. His comment was, you can either take a class in college or you can read the textbook. And so he spent a lot of time reading. And we had books in our home that some people might recognize, with Dialogue and Sunstone and Mormon History Association and Great Basin Kingdom and all these books. And so my mother handed me a book called Mormonism Unveiled. Said, like, take a look at this and see what you think. Now, some people may think she was trying to take me away from the church. She wasn't. She was actually she was said, if you get stuck on anything or you see something that might be there, come back and talk with me about it. And so I did. I said, what is this? And so we talked about a few of the things, and I talked to my dad about a few of the things. And you remember, I was like 14 or 15 years old when this was happening. Avid reader. I went on to read all the volumes of the history of the church, all the seminary books, all the books that are out there on Jesus the Christ and articles of faith and all those types of books. So yeah, I was a nerd. I was pretty much a nerd. And
I think that I consider that to be very cool. So it depends on what you think is nerdy.
Yeah. So anyway, so then what happened is the way FAIR got started is I went on to America Online, which in those days was the big deal, and it had emails, and You've Got Mail was the big thing they said. They had message boards, discussion boards, and so I was having fun just looking around, and I found one called Mormonism. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Let me go look at it. And it turns out that message board was not a place for Latter-day Saints to discuss their faith. It was run by Christianity Online, and it was a place to discuss why Mormonism was false. And when I was there, I found about 5 or 6 other Latter-day Saints that were also there just trying to say, that's not exactly right, or that's not what we believe, or that kind of thing. And somebody made the comment finally that says, like, we're answering the same questions over and over and over again. I just want to find a place where I can stick it up and paste it so I can just point to it. And somebody else said, hey, let's make a website. And another person said, like, let's make an organization. I'll get the 501c3 paperwork started right away. And I went like, okay. And that was FAIR. And so then after that, we'd say like, it's not quite right. Read this article over here. And it made it just a lot easier for doing that. It was interesting because we got enough complaints on Christianity Online from people who were looking to see why Mormonism was false, that America Online, that they brought in a special speaker to demonstrate why Mormons are wrong. The only problem was the special speaker was someone who was familiar with Latter-day Saints, and yes, he was a pastor, but he said like, no, they are Christians. No, you're misrepresenting what they believe. And he went on to say, like, I don't particularly want to follow them. I don't believe in them. I believe in, faith through grace and not works and such. But these are really good people, and you're really misrepresenting what they believe.
Wow.
So then the next thing that happened is they said, like, okay, we'll let you stay on the Mormonism message board, but you can't go anywhere else. You can't go into any other message boards. And we said, we're out of here. And so we created our own message board, and then our website, and again we had our answers up there, and we've been there ever since. Our message board, that's another story. We ended up dropping our message board, even though it was extremely popular. It became very, very popular. I had our internet provider actually call on the phone and say, "What are you doing?" Because your website is the most popular website. And there was discussion going on, there was debates going on, there was all kinds of things. Well, what happened was when Mitt Romney ran for president for the first time, we started seeing FAIR quote in the newspapers and on television.
Wow.
And the problem with the FAIR quotes in the newspaper is they were literally going onto our message board and saying, well, FAIR thinks, and sometimes they'd be quoting our critic.
Oh my gosh.
So we said like, we got to not do that anymore. So we separated ourselves and such. Yeah.
I have so many questions for you. Okay.
Yes.
So in your research this goes back a long time. You've been interested in this for a long time.
Yes.
Have you ever experienced a faith crisis of your own or faced information that challenged your faith?
So yes, absolutely. Part of the problem with looking at what people call anti-Mormon material or critical material is some of it is very well written. Some of it is written in such a way that I don't care how educated you are, how smart you are. it's very easy to say like, wow, I can see that point of view and be taken in by it. Now, let me say, first of all, not all criticism is illegitimate. There's some criticism. I mean, the church is a collection of people, and as soon as you have more than two people together, somebody's going to do something stupid. And that happens.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. I have learned that so much
Yeah.
and studying the history of the church and like Doctrine and Covenants and Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery and how they like, and you see how they're so human. And
Yeah.
I have a company that I've built with my co-founder, and I have, the podcast, and you're so right. Like even doesn't matter what your most righteous desire is, like you are human. At the end of the day, there is going to be human things that happen. And after building, the podcast and my startup software company that I'm in, I'm like, you are not immune. Like you are human. There will be friction, and there will be that happens.
Yep. I think about the time when Joseph Smith got in a fist fight with his brother. It's going like, what are you doing? It's just dumb. But on the other hand, when I look at that and I say, if the Lord can use people like Joseph Smith, then maybe there's a place for me. That's my thing.
Yes. And I always say this on the podcast, but like, I used to be a heroin addict. Like, I used to be a heroin addict, and I get messages from people that are like, oh my gosh, like, I mean, obviously I am just the host of this podcast, but like, and if the podcast can do so much good, like, is that discounted because I used to be a heroin addict? Like,
yeah.
Well,
my grandmother lived in Logan, Utah, and in Logan they had this man who was an absolutely wonderful organist. And my grandmother also played the organ a bit. But her calling in church was to be the assistant organist. And her job was to help the organist, who is this absolutely fabulous organ player who wrote music himself, would do variations on Come Come Ye Saints, all the stuff. Her job was to get him up the 6 stairs to the organ. And you say like, well, why would she have to do that? What was he disabled? No, he was usually drunk.
Oh my gosh.
So her job, if she could get him into the seat, he played beautifully. But I look at that and I say, here's a man who had an addiction problem, who still believed, who wanted to contribute. But her job
was, that's beautiful.
I do too. I think that's wonderful. So she would get him up the stairs, and if she couldn't get him up the stairs, then she was to play that hymn and to play it and wait for the next hymn and try and get him up the stairs again and see if he'd sober up a bit.
Honestly, I was just saying on an episode, a couple episodes back, can we please normalize people making mistakes and going to church? Like, can we please normalize that? Because that is what the church is all about. Now, I'm not advocating for following some commandments and not following others. Like, I am not advocating for that. I am advocating for everybody to feel like there is a place for them despite where they're at on their journey. I heard, I don't know where I heard this, and it's probably a general authority, but it's not about where we are on the path. It's about what way we're facing.
Right.
And I love that.
Exactly. So let me go back to your original question, because I tend to talk a lot and such.
Yes.
So so things were going well with FAIR. Some people would give me questions. People would email us with questions. We'd answer them. Easy peasy, no problem. And then a librarian with the Methodist Church sent me an email and said, I don't quite understand how you can believe Joseph Smith when his whole first vision timeline doesn't work out. Here are the baptismal records from Palmyra, and we don't see a revival in Palmyra until years later. And so, but then that means that Joseph Smith's story doesn't work. And gave me this in-depth explanation of how the story no longer works because the baptismal records showed that this didn't really happen in the way Joseph Smith said it did. And I did my usual, oh, no problem. I'll just look it up and look up my stuff in the church history. And what I found was there was nothing on it at all. And I went, huh. And I just assume I'd come across it quickly, and I didn't. It took almost a year, I think. And then what happened was a friend of mine, I decided to go back and look at the Palmyra newspaper, the Palmyra Reflector. And you can see the newspaper now in the Joseph Smith papers, but at the time, nobody had gone through it. And in there was a description of a revival meeting where they would sell alcohol, and it was homemade alcohol, to help people feel the Spirit.
Oh,
And
boy.
yeah, and so somebody sold alcohol that was not the best quality, and the person drank too much of it, and they died. And that made it into the newspaper. And so what it showed is, from the newspaper record, we saw that the revival was there when Joseph Smith said it was there. The timeline worked, and everything was fine. And shortly after we found that, an article came out in the Ensign where one of the other church historians went there. And I don't know if my friend tipped him off or what happened, but the where it kind of went through the whole timeline again and used the Palmyra incident, Palmyra Reflector newspaper article. But I went for quite a while there saying, like, I know the church is true, but I don't have an answer for that question.
Yeah. So when you've had moments of like, when you have moments of, I don't know the answer to that, that challenges the narrative that I've been
Right.
had in my own testimony. How do you approach that with a lens of faith and maintain your testimony when you're faced with so much information that is antagonistic to the church?
A great question. And the problem is there's a lot of information that's antagonistic to the church, and it's framed in such a way to be very antagonistic. I was just reminded of that when I was rereading an article from an early fair conference where they talked about how the books written by the Tanners, when they talk about the church, they use the words, anything related to Mormons, they use the word claiming, admitting, or confessing or alleging, whereas anybody that came from the other side affirmed, acknowledged, said, and testified. And so just even in the language usage, it became very difficult. So for me, I have a couple of things. First of all, I have the fortunate experience of having seen so many critical questions answered that I just have faith that there's going to be an answer somewhere for most of it. But really, for me, it also comes down to the Book of Mormon, because I believe the Book of Mormon is the Word of God. I have a witness of that. I feel that there is evidence of that, not proof, but evidence, strong evidences that indicate that is true. There's testimony from witnesses, and the criticisms against it that I've looked at have been weak. And so when I come across a new question that I don't know the answer for, I always rely on, I know the Book of Mormon's true, so the church is true, even though I don't know the answer to this question. And there are some questions that don't have good answers for them. We just don't have the information. We're not in the minds of the people that were there.
Yeah.
They're difficult. And I'll just, polygamy, plural marriage. Things went on in plural marriage. Some of the plural marriages were very happy and some were not. How people of African descent were treated. I can give you stories that make the church look really, really good, make us look like we were out there, we were advocates, we had a special seat for Jane Manning Jane at the front of the tabernacle, and things that make us look great. Elijah Abel was given a special, was given a job as being a undertaker, and he helped protect Joseph Smith. Great stories. But I can also give you stories where we did not live up to our Christian faith. We did not live up to our standards. And I can where I can make us, well, there's enough out there where we look really bad. And so the question is which you're going to believe? And my answer is both. Both stories are
Yeah.
true, because people are complicated. It's just,
Right. Well, okay. This is reminding me of the book Faith is Not Blind. And
yes,
in the book, it describes how, we have a simplistic testimony where we are believers and we're just like, yes, the church is true. Like, go up to we're kids, we go up, I know the church is true. And then we
right.
go into complexity where it's like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, there are some really challenging topics surrounding polygamy, surrounding church history, and it can be jarring.
Yep.
It can, it can really cause somebody to pause. But I think the thing that we want to share is that there's actually this incredible place beyond complexity where you can accept that people are human, and you can accept that, the people back in early church history, they are just humans, just
Yeah.
like we are today. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna just come out and say that the brethren of the church today are the most like angelic human beings that are on this earth, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And when you are a public figure, every single piece of your life is completely scrutinized, and
Oh yeah.
whatever's online, people are. So the fact that we have the brethren today and that is so just testimony affirming for me, because they're people who I want to learn from. And so anyway, I think that there is this beautiful place beyond this complexity where we
Right.
can go to. And I see that with you. Like, you've experienced all these questions and comments and attacks, and you have responded to them. And you mentioned that your faith was tried for a
Mhm.
moment there. And now it's like, it doesn't throw you off the course anymore because you've learned how to approach this.
Right. Exactly right. And as far as the brethren go, I have had the wonderful opportunity of interacting with them in the church office building. Well, not that building particularly, but in the buildings where and they work really hard. And I've had unguarded conversations with them where they just really want to do the right thing. And their life is not their own. A lot of people
Right.
don't realize that, when somebody comes with their wife to some big event, they have to pay for the wives themselves out of their own pocket to go there.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
so, because usually the church will pay for them to go because it's their job, but wives, it's not their job.
Yeah.
So they, and I've seen them literally jump up from a meeting saying, I got another meeting in 5 minutes, and run to their next meeting. And now these are not young men sometimes.
Right.
Uh, I was walking down the hallway with Elder Ballard and some of 12, and they were laughing about, at that time, it was claimed online that when they become 70 or an apostle, all their debts were paid off. They get $1 million. That was common discussion. And one of the brethren was saying, Elder Ballard, where's my $1 million? You haven't paid me yet. What's going on? And they were all laughing about it. And I finally said, no, stop. Nobody knows whether it's true or not because no one said it. Elder Ballard turned to me and got with me face to face and said, Scott, you tell everybody it's not true. We don't get $1 million. All we got to do is just serve the Lord, and we don't, do well. Um, People complain about what the brethren are paid, but so I work at a community college in California. Many community college instructors in California are paid more money than the brethren who are running this, if you want to put it this way, this corporation with 17 million people and
Mm.
multiple locations. And it's just a huge span of responsibility, being observed 24/7. If they even go to the store, they have people who are watching what they're
Yeah.
buying and things. So it's not fair. If we church,
Yeah. I can't even imagine. I mean, when I go to the store and
Yeah.
I I'll have people come up and say, "Oh my gosh, like I love your podcast" or whatever, and I think, "Man, what if they catch me yelling at my kids?"
That's right.
Or what if, what if who knows? Like what if my kids are acting up and I'm like
Right.
that happens. I do yell at my kids. So I can't
What?
even
No, I'm shocked.
imagine.
I'm off here now. You have weaknesses. I'm out of here. Well, I was at the Sacramento airport, just sitting waiting for an airplane, and a man comes walking up to me, and I'm thinking, this is weird. Why is this guy coming up to me? And he said, "Are you Scott Gordon?" Yeah, I am. I just want to thank you because I was leaving the church and I had some questions and I went on the fair website and I found the answers to my questions and I'm now strong in the church and going every week.
Oh my gosh. And that's
So,
even if it's that one person,
yeah,
it's worth it.
absolutely. I had another man moved into our ward and new family moved in. We invited him over to dinner. Just want to make sure they're welcome in the ward. And he's talking and he said, yeah, Scott Gordon. And he said, like, "Are you related to that guy from fair?" And I said, "Well, that's me, actually." And he went like, "Oh, I." He got up, he hugged me. "You saved my testimony.
Oh
You."
my
So
gosh.
he's now an Elders Quorum president, one of the wards around here, and he
Wow.
and he was on his way out. He said, and then he
Oh my
got the
gosh.
answers he was looking for. And again, with fair, you have let me mention something. I know I'm talking a lot here, but we have a couple of parts to our website. We have a conference that happens every year, and we have all our conference talks in one part of the website. And then we have what we call an answers section. And the answers section is where where people have written in questions and we've written out answers and put it on our website. And so we have these two different sections of our website. So when people come in and they say like, "Well, you lie to us, you exaggerate, and I'm always thinking, okay, which section are you talking about? Are you talking about the part that we've written or from the conference talks? And the
Yeah.
conference talks are like professional historians sometimes,
Right.
but still, they said what they said and it's their opinion, or is it from
Yeah.
fair volunteers wrote and such?
Hmm.
And then what we do is people say, "Well, the stuff you wrote, is it peer reviewed?" Well, yeah, we put it on the internet, and everyone reviews
It's
it.
reviewed by all of our peers. Thank you.
And let me tell you, the critics are not kind. They're and
You're not.
when we find something that more than once people said like, "You got this wrong," and we look, "You're right, we got it wrong," and we change it because
Yeah.
we want to make sure that we're accurate, that we're not leading people through propaganda, that
Right.
we're actually accurate what we say. Here's an example. We talk about what you were saying with perplexity and such.
Yeah.
Recently on X, a critic came out and said one of the number one reasons people leave the church is because Joseph Smith was a convicted fraud. And this came from the Glasslooker trial of 1826. And he wrote this big, long Substack information or article on it. And what's interesting is his footnote, footnote 17 to be exact, went to an article. See, I read footnotes.
Love
And the
it.
article went through the trial and what it was and all the different aspects of it, because he was brought before a judge on the charge of being a disorderly person for glass looking, which is a vagrancy thing, which then, of course, some people, they were saying, "Well, you're fraudulently misleading somebody."
Wait. Okay. So glass looking is fraudulently misleading somebody.
Well, because you're going to look in a glass something and claim you can see buried treasure.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what it is.
Got it.
And the kind of like geocaching from a few years ago was kind of the sport of the day because they knew there were ancient inhabitants in the Americas. Nobody knew who they were. And so let's find their buried treasure. We're sure there's some around here somewhere. And so that's just what some people did. That was their thing. And Joseph Smith got hired onto one of those teams. And the kids of the guy he was working for got upset and took him to court. And so the articles quoted by the critic was, and he was convicted. Well, the problem is he wasn't convicted. He was and the article from this footnote says specifically he was acquitted.
Oh
And
my
it,
gosh.
and it goes through the reason why he was acquitted, because he said, well, he went to court, true. He paid money, true. Therefore, the money must have been a fine, not true. Therefore, he was guilty, also not true. Back in those days, in smaller communities, judges were often paid for sitting on trials or sitting on hearings, and it was 19 cents for bringing the prisoner before you, 25 cents for interviewing the witnesses, and and the information that we have follows that very carefully. And there was no conviction. Had there been a conviction, it would have had to have been registered with the court above them and shown he was guilty and such, and that never happened. But it
Wow.
makes such a good story to say, like, he went before a judge, he paid money, therefore he's guilty. No, he went before a
So
judge, he paid the fees that everybody has to pay who appears before the judge. And we know he wasn't found guilty because just not too long afterwards, he's in the company of another justice of the peace, getting married to Emma and not being worried about getting arrested or like that. So yeah, anyway.
So basically, if you are criticizing the church and you don't have your facts straight, you better watch out because Scott be coming for you.
Right. Exactly right.
I love that. I love that so much. I wanted to go back a little bit. We were talking about the brethren today. I was in President Eyring's ward a couple years ago, and seeing him interact as a human being was literally one of the coolest experiences of my life. That man was just so humble and so sweet. And my husband going to elders quorum with him, he just treasures those insights from being
Oh,
in
yeah.
elders quorum with President Eyring. And he would go to primary a lot with, and we would see him in primary because we were primary teachers. And I remember one of the things that he said was, just teach the kids about Jesus. And I have like taken that to my core, and my kids, they know about Jesus. And I am so grateful for that time that I had with him. But it just kind of goes back to that these men are, they're pretty close to angels, if you ask me.
They really are. He's passed away now, but Boyd K. Packer was vilified frequently. And I talked to some of the brethren who knew him and said, like, he was the gentlest soul. And
I love him.
he would cry sometimes about things that what people were saying and such.
Oh my God.
It's very gentle, very kind, but he had a way of speaking that was very direct. And that was, but when you don't give anybody any grace, that's what happens.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so true. I just, in being like, putting my story out there online, and people have a lot of things to say about me, and I am a people pleaser to my core, and it can be hard to think, oh my gosh, like, what if they say this about me, or what if they hate me, or what if, whatever. And hearing all of these stories, it is so reaffirming to me that, like, I'm not the only one that's being criticized.
I'm a liar. I've heard it so many times. I'm here. It's like, where did I lie? I'll fix it.
Yeah.
I had one critic who claimed all you do is ad hominem attacks. You just attack the messenger. And I have two thoughts for that. One thought is sometimes it's important to point out the person really doesn't have any background information in the subject matter. It's like, if you take your car to, if your beautician has an opinion about what's wrong with your car, that's great. And she might be right. So, but just be aware that she's not an expert on
Right.
this. But secondly, what I said to this particular critic is I said, tell you what, you go on our website, you find ad hominem attacks, find them. And if you find anything that's egregious, other than just pointing out, maybe they don't, know something, but anything that says to discount what they say because of their background, which I never do, I will come on your podcast and I will apologize publicly. And I'll put something on our website that says, hey, we found this and such a. And
Man,
he
you
said,
are a
okay.
legend, Scott. You
So,
are a
so,
legend.
so he went on his podcast and asked for all of his followers to find something, and he didn't ever contact me again. So I'm
I
assuming he
love it.
didn't find anything. So,
That is amazing. I love it so much. Well, okay, let's talk a little bit about the fair conference that's coming up. I have the amazing honor of doing a live podcast and I'm so excited. I cannot wait. I love everything you guys do. And so tell us a little bit more about the conference and what that looks like.
so fair conference is really a fun activity because you can rub shoulders and rub elbows, I think is the expression, with famous people like Ashley Stone and
Oh,
other
no.
amazing people. And, no, it's true. You do. You see people who maybe are heroes or and other people who give information. But this year we're trying something a little different. We always tweak it a little bit to try to see what works. We're starting on Wednesday evening, and on Wednesday evening we're providing food and things, and people are just to interact with each other, and then we have director of church communication who's going to speak to us as our keynote speaker there Wednesday evening. And then on Thursday, we have other people from church headquarters speaking. For example, and this is very interesting to many people, we have two people coming to speak about the church abuse hotline, and
Wow, that is interesting.
they actually work on the church abuse hotline. So and
Wow.
the nice thing is they not only will speak, but people will have the opportunity to ask questions, and so that way it gives some interaction and back and forth. And we have someone speaking who's with Church Correlation who's coming to speak, which is also going to be really interesting. Then we have several speakers talking about the role of women in the church. We've got Megan Kohler, we've got BYU faculty, we've got the Women of Ward Radio are coming. So
Also, I saw that Al Caraway is coming.
that's the next thing I was going to say. Al Caraway is coming to speak.
I'm so
And
excited. I've been like DMing her on Instagram. I'm like, oh my gosh, we gotta hang out at fair.
that's good. Brandon Moll is coming. He's also a New York Times bestseller.
Awesome.
And we just have some Brad Whitbeck, who was in the Escape from Germany movie. He's coming,
Awesome.
and he's a gentle and kind soul. And then we have, fair is always fun because we have good faith affirming topics, and we have some controversial topics as well. We
Yeah.
have Dan Peterson speaking on Brigham Young and slavery, and that might raise some eyebrows. That can be
Yeah.
controversial and interesting. So I always walk away from the fair conference learning something new. Every time I go, I say like, that's amazing. We had a speaker last year that talked about plural marriage. A speaker before that who talked about under the banner of heaven and stuff. And so there's
Yeah.
just always something interesting to be had, and we have a fun time. And I like it because I go every year, and it's like, hey, I'm just going to see a few hundred of my best friends each year, because
love it.
we can spend time interacting and talking with each other. It's also good because you might have a really strong question, and maybe it's not addressed at the fair conference, but we have enough people going around where I've seen this time and time again, where someone will sit down with you who does have credentials, who does have knowledge. We have church historians come and speak every single year. The church history department's always providing speakers for our conference. But you can sit down with them, and they can give you a broader perspective of what's happening. And I've never seen anybody try to persuade anyone, but it's always to give a better perspective, better overview. We have people come who are strong members of the church. We have people come who are opposed to the church. We have people come who are on the margin, and all are welcome. And we provide food. Food's part of the deal when you get in. So you get your lunch provided. And,
Awesome.
I
And
mean,
how much are tickets and where can people find tickets?
yeah, the food alone is the reason to come. I think it's always good. So, Okay, you can find the tickets if you go to www.fairlatterdaysaints.org. And remember, it's a .org. We're not a .com. We're a nonprofit organization, so it's a .org, and the .com doesn't work at all. So don't go
Okay.
there. So fairlatterdaysaints.org. If you get lazy, you can always type in fairmormon.org, but don't tell anybody I said that. That still works. And I'm just looking down the thing. So so the ticket is $150 for the 2.5 days, what it
Okay.
is. And that includes food. And it's going to
Wow.
be at the barn at Thanksgiving Point.
I
Uh,
love that place.
yeah. And some people can't come because, for example, I've got a friend in Norway who loves coming, but obviously coming every year is a little difficult. So we also stream it, and the streaming tickets are very inexpensive, and you can buy the streaming tickets. I don't remember the price on the streaming tickets, and I'm not clicked in the right place right now on my, on my
That's
computer.
okay.
But
That's
it's
okay.
cheap. It's the streaming tickets
Okay.
are cheap. Um,
Awesome.
but it's
I love it.
yeah, and some people say like 150. That's a lot of money. No, it's not really. Not
Trust
really.
me, I know we do our Come Back to Christ event is September 5th and 6th, and it's not a lot of money, and it is a lot of footwork to go in to make sure that it gets paid for.
Yeah.
So
Our
trust
our
me, I get it.
our conferences, we hope to break even on our conferences. That's really what we
Yes,
do. They're not
I
money
know.
makers for us at all. We
Right.
hope to break even, which means you do have to put up with me. It's like PBS. I get up and say, okay, if you want one next year, think of
Yep.
donating.
We're in the same boat.
Yep.
So I totally get it.
Well, I'd really
Well,
look forward to seeing you
yes, me
here in
too. I'm
August.
so excited.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to go. And before we wrap up, I want
Yeah.
to ask you one question.
Sure.
What advice would you have for somebody who has recently encountered information on the internet that has sent their testimony into a tailspin? What advice would you give to them?
First advice is to remember Jesus Christ and what he's done for us. It's really easy to focus on the tree of the one criticism and lose the forest. The gospel is beautiful. It's wonderful. It's community. It's Book of Mormon. It's a Bible. It's all these wonderful things. And it's like people, it seems like sometimes one chink is pulled out and, and out of the wall, and the wall collapses. And that's really not the way it has to be. The second thing I'd like to say is many of our faith crisis is not because of the information, but because of our preconceived notions and our underlying assumptions going in. Just another quick one. I remember when Dan Peterson told me once, this was years ago, and he said, like, well, Joseph Smith didn't even have the gold plates next to him when he translated. And I went into shock. I went like, what? What are you talking about? He didn't have, well, how did he translate? And then it dawned on me he didn't need to have the plates next to him because he wasn't doing it that way. He wasn't doing an academic translation. And but he needed the plates to show people as an artifact that it really was there, that there really was something, and to help his own faith. So remember Jesus Christ, focus on him, don't give up praying. Secondly, check your own assumptions. You're just, because there's a lot of assumptions in there. Prophets are perfect. Prophets know exactly what every revelation means. Brigham Young even said, you can get a revelation and you do your best to follow it, but you may not know what it means. Also, remember that people didn't walk around in history with drones following them, recording everything they said. Anything we have from history is second person, third person, filtered through their own opinions and such. And so it's easy to be thrown by things that maybe didn't even happen. Fawn Brody's book is famous for this. I always like people quote Fawn Brody and say like, "Oh, this is the book you have to read on history." And my thought of reading it, it sounds like people telling stories at the bar. It's just really not. She never met a rumor she didn't like, so long as it made Joseph Smith look bad. Oh.
Totally.
So it's chill. I guess the other thing, just chill, keep going to church. Uh, I've if there's been a criticism, I've probably read it. In fact, I can't. I got 12,000 pages on the website, and we have other volunteers also read it, and so there is nothing new. There's the same questions get recycled over and over again, and the fact you haven't seen it doesn't mean it hasn't been seen and dealt with. For heaven's sakes, the Mormon History Association has been around longer than probably you've been alive, and they've been publishing these things. And yes, it wasn't in your Sunday school manual. Sorry, but that's not what Sunday school is for. It's
Right.
But it's that's supposed to be building you up to follow Jesus Christ. And they use history to help you follow Jesus Christ, but they're not a history class.
Right. Right. I love that. That is such a good way of looking at it. So good.
So I teach accounting as some of my classes. I teach international business and I teach accounting. But my accounting students, every time I start talking about what debits and credits really mean, I often get a student who tries to argue with me. No, it doesn't. It means this. And it's like, no, it really doesn't. But they'll argue with me and then say like, no, my account's credit, it means increase. It's like, no, it doesn't. Debit and credit doesn't mean that at all. We use it that way in our everyday colloquial language, but that's not really what it means in accounting. And the problem is they just have their preconceived notions based on what they've absorbed from the culture around them. And then they try to apply that, which is how we deal with a lot of things in life. But that's not really what brings forward truth. That's just how we deal with things in life.
Right.
And so you have to study it out. You have to really investigate it. And you can't say, well, let me just go to non-Latter-day Saint sources. Why? Why would a Latter-day Saint source be? In fact, Latter-day Saint sources would be better because they actually care about the subject. There's very few non-Latter-day Saints that even care enough to study the subject. One thing I think is really important to focus on is how important the people are going through their faith journey. People say, if somebody in your family decides they're leaving the church, you're not, the best solution is not to take their question, go to FAIR, print out the article and say, you're wrong. See, that just doesn't work. I mean, I think about it in politics. It just doesn't work. The best thing to do is to remember that our Heavenly Father loves each and every one of us. We're His children. He loves them. And we must love our children as well, and our family members and such, whether they're a member, not member who's left, member, any situation they're in. And to not panic, because this life, I mean, we have this life we're talking about, but life in general is eternal. And I can't imagine when that child of ours or that spouse of ours or whatever gets to the other side and meets with Jesus Christ and He puts their arm around them, that they won't say, well, yeah, but what about Joseph Smith? And, no, they're just, they'll recognize things for what they are. And any physical issues they may have, any attractions they may have, whatever it is, that those can be taken care of. So it's important we love people. I just really care about people. I joke about it. I know people are going to leave the church. It's not going to be for them. That's their right. When people say, like, what's FAIR about? I say, FAIR's about making sure people don't leave the church over stupid reasons. Because there are stupid reasons, things that are simply not true, things that are propaganda. If you're going to leave the church, at least leave for something legitimate. The church is a high demand church. I can't do it anymore. Okay, let me give you a hug. Hey, I just learned that Joseph Smith was called into trial at some point and I'm leaving the church. Why? What is that? Anyway, so it's important to love people. It's important to make sure we're not critical of them personally. And we move forward in love and kindness best we can.
Love that. Love that so much. Well, Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. This has been so fun, and I'm so glad we had you on. You just have a great story and a great mission, and I appreciate you taking the time with me.
Thank you very much, Ashley. I appreciate you having me on.
Surf Clothing is one of our favorite brands. They have been supporting us since the very beginning. We love them so much. I think one of the things that I like about Surf so much is that my husband is literally obsessed, and I brought him in here to share his experience with Surf Clothing. So, Jesse, tell us.
I love Surf Clothing. This is the best shirt that I've ever owned for church and professional purposes. It's got four-way stretch, which makes it really nice because not all the time I'm at my desk. Oftentimes I'm moving and out and about. So it's really nice to have a flexible shirt that moves with me. I know that it's got a mesh collar that I love. I think the purpose of that is really to prevent stains, but it's also super comfortable. It's way more comfortable around my neck. You know, if I'm at church or in business meetings with a tie or whether I don't have a tie, it's really comfortable. It's got arm vents, which I love because I'm kind of a bigger fella. It helps me so that I can be a bit breathable, and I love it.
And also, you can get 15% off a shirt from Serve by using the code COMEBACK.
A lot of people have asked us how they can support the podcast, and we have created a Comeback Podcast merch line on our website, www.comebackpodcast.org. All of the money made from the merch goes right back into the podcast. So if you are interested in supporting the podcast and you want to purchase some merch, we would love it. Check it out. Thank you so much for being a supporter of the Comeback Podcast and listening to our episodes. It would mean so much to us if you would like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps other people be able to find us, and we want to share this message to everyone.